On a dark desert highway. Wait, that sounds like the old Eagles song. Let me rephrase that. While driving my rig through the desert late at night, trying to get back to the yard. There we go. That's much better. Anyways, that's what we call the place where all the tractor trailers are kept, the yard. I saw something that terrified me deep into the belly of my soul. I always thought it was a myth, a legend, something that truckers told themselves to keep themselves awake. But I was wrong. You see, I'm well, I was a cross country truck driver for the Remington Trucking Company, based out of a very popular city in California. I'm not married, I don't have any kids, so why not, right? I mean, I had everything I needed right there in my truck, in the sleeper cab. I had a bed, microwave, mini fridge, portable DVD player, and a coffee pot. I could wash my clothes, get a shower, and get some real food at a truck stop. And there was always lot lizards hanging around for the other needs, so to speak. Don't judge. Besides, cross country truck drivers make a lot of money. Anyway, you don't care about that. You see, I grew up in Camp Springs, Maryland, and every time my parents and I would go to visit my aunt and uncle and their family in New Jersey, my father would always take exit 7A on the Jersey Turnpike. You know, the truck route. He'd ride that thing all the way down to exit 15 where it ends and then merges back into the Jersey Turnpike. He claimed it was faster. That's how I became infatuated with 18 wheelers. It scared the crap out of my mom sometimes, but she'd just close her eyes and try to sleep through it. I, on the other hand, loved it. Anyway, when I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to be a truck driver, so I saved some money from my cashier's job at Billy's Burger Barn and enrolled at a local truck driving school. I completed the 6-week course and got my CDL. The school helped me find a job at the Remington Trucking Company. It was all the way across the country, but it was a job, and I've been here ever since. Anyway, I packed my stuff, said bye to my parents, got in my car, and headed for sunny California. I worked here for a couple years, drove their trucks, slept in the cab when I was on the road, and slept in the shop when I wasn't. I saved some money and eventually bought my own rig, a used neon green Kenworth W900. Man, I love that rig. Well, that's enough about me. Let me tell you what happened. Now, what I'm about to tell you is something that I've never told anyone before. Well, except my therapist. I was heading home after delivering a load of tables, chairs, and sitting booths to a bar in Florida. Some guy named Joe was remodeling the place. Anyway, I got on Route 66 in Albuquerque and began my final stretch home. It was about 2:30 in the morning. It was a beautiful night out. I mean, the full moon shining down on the road, not another vehicle in sight, just me and the white lines. I rolled the windows down, letting the cool night desert air in, and I turned the radio on and tuned it to KIOT, Coyote 102.5, classic rock, man. They were actually playing some pretty decent songs that night. I drove down the road, rocking out, enjoying the trip for about an hour and a half. The radio station began to fade, so I just turned it off. I kept the window down and just kept rolling on, with only the sound of the engine humming and the wheels whining on the road and nothing to look at but the white lines. Now, I'm not sure if you know about what's called white line fever. Now, if you do, then great. But if you don't, let me explain it. It's basically highway hypnosis. It can happen to anyone, especially when you're driving at night. That's when the lines on the road going by so quickly in a flashing pattern hypnotize you. So you have no recollection of driving or anything that happened while you're in that altered state. I'm serious. I'm serious. Look it up. Anyway, I caught the fever. The last thing I remember was turning off the radio, and then suddenly I was sitting at a truck stop about 100 miles away from where I last remembered being. I blinked my eyes and shook my head and I need coffee, I told myself. I rolled the windows up and shut the truck off and went inside. I got the largest cup of coffee they had, added cream and sugar just how I like it, and paid for it, and went back to my truck. I got in the truck, took a drink of the coffee, and put it in my cup holder. I put my seatbelt on, company rules and all, started the truck, wiped my eyes, and put the truck in gear and rolled out. I got on the road, continued driving, drinking as much coffee as I possibly could to try and stay awake. Now, as we all know, coffee is full of caffeine, which helps keep us awake. But did you know that too much caffeine will cause it to counteract itself and have the total opposite effect? Well, after about 10 minutes of pounding that black coffee, my eyes began to feel heavy. Wake up, man, wake up. Fight through it, you could make it, I told myself, but I was wrong again. As each mile marker passed, my eyes became heavier and heavier. I felt myself start to doze off. I shook my head and snapped myself out of it and reached for my coffee cup. In my sleepy state, I reached but couldn't feel the cup. I took my eyes off the road for just a second. Seeing the cup and reaching for it, I turned my hazy eyes back to the road, and that's when I saw it. The black dog. As I rode down Route 66 heading west to California, eyes heavy, barely able to stay awake, my headlights beaming out into the darkness that stood before me, it appeared out of nowhere. Its eyes were blood red, its teeth were sharp and shiny. Its coat was as black as the devil's soul, and its face was so hideous I can't even describe it. I mean, that image will forever be burned into my subconscious mind. My headlights shined upon it as it ran full speed down the center of the lane directly towards the front of my truck. Holy crap, I screamed as I hit the brakes and whipped the cab hard to the right. My front passenger tire went off the side of the road, dropping a few inches onto the grass and heading straight for the ditch. My rear drive wheels were next to follow, and in my panicked state, I tried correcting my turn by whipping the cab hard to the left. I thought I was successful until the momentum and inertia took over, causing the trailer to slam hard into the driver's rear side tires, causing the cab to slide diagonally down the road. I then felt the entire truck flip over on its side. I said a little prayer and put my hands over my eyes and let whatever was going to happen, happen. I screamed as the truck went over and slammed hard on the ground, flinging me around like a rag doll. Thank God I was wearing my seatbelt. I don't even want to think about what happened if I hadn't been. Always wear your seatbelt. Anyway, the truck slid for about 30 yards, but never did go in the ditch. It almost did, but thankfully it didn't. The sound of glass breaking, grinding metal filling the air, as well as thick gray smoke and the smell of oil and fluids from the truck engines. Luckily, the gas tank wasn't damaged in the crash. Well, when it was over, I just laid there, suspended, almost upside down in the air, still in my seatbelt. Thankful to still be alive, I reached up and grabbed the oh shit bar and unlocked my seatbelt. My legs hit the gear shift as my body fell. I maneuvered my legs off of it, still holding onto the bar, and stood on the broken glass from the passenger side window, letting the bar go. Now, what happened next completely terrified me. I was about to call dispatch when I heard it. Now, I've heard other truckers talking about seeing the black dog and the wreck that followed, but I never heard anything like what happened to me. Maybe they left this part out. I don't know, because this was totally messed up. As I stood there, I began to hear a low growling sound, and it intensified with every passing second until it was like at a deafening tone. I then heard a loud thud, followed by scratching on the driver's side door right above me. I'm glad I rolled my windows up when I left the truck stop. I thought as that was the only window not broken. I saw bright red lights shoot across the window. At first I thought they were lights, but they weren't. What in the world is that? I said, followed by another loud thud on the ground. Now, for some reason, I turned and looked out of the windshield which was severely cracked, and I saw two bright red eyes staring directly at me through the cracked windshield. That thing was mere inches away from me. Its face came into focus. Its snout was pulsating, and its mouth was open, revealing row after row of immensely white teeth. No, not teeth, fangs. It was drooling and foaming at the mouth. I screamed. I jumped between the driver and passenger seat into the sleeper, which was totally destroyed, by the way. My shoulder landing hard on the edge of the mini fridge. I thought I broke it. Man, I screamed out in pain. Grabbing my shoulder, I sat down on top of my now broken microwave. I hunched over as far as I could and ducked my head down so I couldn't be seen. The dog then barked the most loudest and demonic evil bark that I have ever heard. Worse than those evil dogs in that 80s movies, Devil Dogs. Now, I'm not a very religious man. I believe in God. I carry a Bible with me on long trips, all that good stuff, but I don't go to church, and, well, I've never even read the Bible, but at that moment, I wished I did. Anyway, I saw the Bible amongst the rubble. I picked it up and held it close to my chest, and I prayed and prayed and prayed for this thing to go away. It did not go away. Now, periodically, I'd stick my head out above the side of the passenger seat and see it standing there, growling and barking. That went on for the next 3.5 hours. Now, as I said before, I never told anyone this story besides my therapist and, well, a guy named Rooster. You see, I had been having night terrors because of it. I would wake up screaming in the middle of the night about 3 or 4 times a week. It traumatized me so much that I stopped driving at night in fear of seeing that dog. I knew I needed help, so I called a therapist. I told her this story and about my night terrors. She diagnosed me with PTSD and prescribed Zoloft once a day. I take it at night since it makes me drowsy. Well, it helps a little, but I don't wake up screaming half as much. She also suggested that instead of keeping the whole traumatic experience bottled up inside of me, that I should tell as many people as I possibly could what happened. So that's what I'm doing here. Anyway, let's get back to the story. Like I was saying, the dog stood there for 3.5 hours. Suddenly, I heard the sound of something heavy hitting the glass. I stuck my head above the seat one last time to see the dog rushing towards the glass, hitting its head hard against it, cracking it just a little more each time. It stepped back, let out an ear-piercing growl, its eyes glowing brighter as it charged the glass once again, this time breaking through. Pieces of glass shot everywhere. I screamed as I fell back into my sitting position and held the Bible close. I began reciting the Lord's Prayer. I was completely scared. Oh, man. Then I saw its head rise above the passenger seat and stare directly at me. Eyes glowing, man, fangs showing, and mouth just foaming. It snarled, drew back, and was about to pounce on me when it let out this ear-piercing shriek of pain and began shaking violently. The thick gray smoke then began pouring out of its eyes, its ears, and its mouth, and, well, I screamed again. As I did, I saw that dog explode into a cloud of thick gray smoke and disappear into thin air. I cleared the smoke away with my hand, coughed a little, only to realize that the sun was beginning to rise. Sunlight must kill this thing, I thought. I had never been so glad to see a sunrise in my life. The dog was gone. What in the hell? I said, completely exhausted. I took a deep breath as my fear began to subside. I set the Bible on the microwave next to me and pulled out my cell phone. I called dispatch. I gave my location, told them I flipped my truck and how long I had been there. I didn't tell them what really happened. Dispatch said they would send out a recovery rotator truck and a heavy-duty tow truck. I thanked them and ended the conversation, putting my phone back in my pocket. I took a deep breath, slowly crept over the passenger seat. I reached up and grabbed the CB. I pressed the button and said, "Breaker 19, this is Vanilla Mike. I'm 1034 in need of assistance. Anyone got their ears out there? Come back. Hoping it still worked." Shortly after I put out the call on the radio, got a response. "Yeah, Vanilla Mike, this Red Rooster. I hear you 1034. What's your 20? I gave him my location. That's what 20 means in trucker lingo. Anyway, about 30 minutes went by when I heard the sound of air brakes. I stood up on the side of the seat and looked out the driver's side window to see a red 18-wheeler stopped on the shoulder of the road right behind my truck. I then climbed out of the window, maneuvered over to the hood, and slid down to the ground below. I walked around the front of my truck and then began walking over to the red truck. A long, red-haired, older gentleman climbed out of the cab and met me halfway and shook my hand. We introduced ourselves to each other, and he reminded me of Willie Nelson, wearing a cowboy hat and a pair of cowboy boots. Anyway, he looked at my truck and asked me what happened. I told him, and he said, "Yep, I've seen that black son of a gun back in '73, dead of night, come out of nowhere. Jackknifed my rig, almost lost my load and my life. Ugly little sucker. Man, it woke me the hell up, though." "You all right?" he asked. "Jackknifed my rig, almost lost my load and my life. Ugly little sucker. It woke me the hell up, though." "Yeah, you all right?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. It's shooken up," I answered. My shoulder was killing me. Anyway, then he invited me to sit in his truck and said he'd wait until the recovery truck arrived. We talked for about 2 hours about everything under the sun, drinking coffee, telling jokes, and laughing. He had his own coffee maker. Anyway, the recovery truck and the tow truck finally showed up. It was about 10:30 at that point, so it took them about 4.5 hours to get my truck upright. The cops had to shut down the westbound lane to do so, and they gave me a ticket for inattentive driving. I just paid it. The judge wouldn't have believed me anyway. Now, once my truck was back upright and I secured a ride home from the tow truck driver, I said goodbye to Rooster. He climbed in his truck, hit the horn a couple times, and just rolled on. He was a good man. I hope our paths cross again one day, under better circumstances, of course. Anyway, I then took a look at the damage. It was massive. I was lucky to be alive. If I would have went left and fell on the driver's side, I would have surely died. "That's it. I'm done," I told myself. Once was enough for me. I never stepped foot in the rig again. The owner of the trucking company was nice enough to have the truck towed back to the shop at his expense. I signed it over to him, and he put it, damaged and all, in the side yard of the shop with the sign across the windshield that read, "Believe the myth." Now, even though I don't drive or ride in a truck anymore, I still work here. I'm in charge of dispatch. The old dispatcher took my job. Good luck to him. Anyway, it pays a lot less, but I'm okay with that. I don't have to worry about seeing that dog anymore. Now, I assign drivers to their loads, provide mapping information, ensure that the product is loaded properly, as well as many other things. I rent a room at the Flophouse down the street. The room is about as big as my sleeper cab was, maybe a little bigger. But there's a bed, a dresser, a lamp, a rolling clothes rack like you see in the laundromats in the corner. I had to buy a new mini fridge, new microwave, and new coffee pot, as they were all damaged in the crash. I also bought a small flat-screen TV and DVD player. The Flophouse don't have cable. Anyway, there's a shared bathroom with 3 showers side by side at the end of the hall, and a couple coin-operated washers and dryers downstairs. It's really not that bad. I don't mess with lot lizards anymore. No, I got a real girlfriend named Natasha. I met her at Chelsea's restaurant. My shoulder's doing fine. It was just badly bruised. Now, in closing, I'd just like to say to any of you truckers out there, if you feel your eyes getting heavy and it's hard to focus on the road, please, please stop. Promise me that you'll stop. Pull over on the side of the road, stop at a gas station, stop somewhere, because the black dog is no myth. It's no legend. The dog is real. I've seen it, and it's got one hell of a bite.